Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to week 1, lesson 2 for Peter Pan. In this lesson today, we're going to cover some more reading from Peter Pan. We're going to talk a little bit about narrative style. I want to look at the way the writer is setting up the story and maybe how we can gather the idea of an audience from that. And we're also going to be looking at some more plot points. Depending on how far we get, we could be looking at ideas like, the inciting incident. And we could be looking, again, at things like exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and conclusion. After we do a little reading and we cover those topics, I am going to assign one more piece of homework. And that's because we do not have any Zoom classes this Friday. So you'll see this video Thursday morning, then you'll have all of Thursday, all of Friday, all of Saturday, and all of Sunday to go through the assignment that I'm gonna give. And then you can either write that assignment down and email it to me during that time, or you can come to my Zoom call on Monday morning and you can share it with me verbally then, okay? Remember, my Zoom calls are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, except for this Friday, because it's Good Friday. But every other Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 9 a.m. That's when we talk about classroom stuff. And then my social hours, the ones that you can just come to chat and hang out, which I would love to see all of you guys at. I would love that. Those are from 2 to 2:30, also every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, without further ado, let's jump back into Peter Pan. I have it up on my computer here the same way that you guys do. So, if you don't remember, we're doing Project Gutenberg to read Peter Pan, unless you already happen to have the copy. We're reading the novel by J.M. Barrie. Not the Disney one. This is actually what Disney got the idea from and made the movie from. In the description of this video, right down below, there's going to be a link, and in that link, you can just click on it, and it'll bring you right to the story, okay? It opens in your web browser. You don't have to download anything. Just a cool free online library. Very fun. If you remember, we left off with Mr. and Mrs. Darling sort of showing us who they were as characters. Mrs. Darling being this emotional character who's very loving. She seems soft and quite sweet, and she definitely wants all of her children. And then we have Mr. Darling, who seems like a nice enough guy, but very businesslike, very much an adult, right? It seems like J.M. Barrie is showing us that Mr. Darling he's the representation of adulthood. He acts like an adult, 100%. He's almost an exaggerated caricature of how an adult would be. And he crunches all the numbers about the kids. Can we have the kid? We'll carry the 2 and bring the 3 over here and multiply that and take 2 off for this. He's very methodical, right? And what else happened? Oh, yeah. Before we finished our reading, we were also introduced to Nana, who was their maid. And Nana's actually really good. But Mr. Darling is worried about whether or not she meets the expectations of his neighbors. So he wants to look good for his neighbors, for society. Okay. It seems like we're right there. So no nursery could possibly have been conducted more correctly, and Mr. Darling knew it. Yet he sometimes wondered uneasily whether the neighbors talked. He had his position in the city to consider. That's where we left off. Nana also troubled him in another way. He had sometimes a feeling that she did not admire him. I know she admires you tremendously, George, Mrs. Darling would assure him. And then she would sign to the children to be specifically nice to father. Lovely dances followed, in which the only other servant, Liza, was sometimes allowed to join. Such a midget she looked in her long skirt and maid's cap, though she had sworn when engaged that she would never see 10 again. The gaiety of those romps, and gayest of all was Mrs. Darling, who would pirouette so wildly that all you could see of her was the kiss, and then if you had dashed at her, you might have got it. There never was a simpler, happier family until the coming of Peter Pan. So this is a little pretty obvious foreshadowing here, right? Really quick before we continue, just in case some of you guys can't find where we left off before, you've clicked the link and you're scrolling all over trying to find it, I want you to go to your computer and press the control key. You see where control is at? CTRL. Type control, hold it down, hold down control, and then click F. Control F, like fun. When you click those two together, it brings a little screen up, a little bar up in the top right corner. And in that bar, I want you to type, he had his position in the city to consider. Go ahead and pause the video until you type that out. Once you get it, it should take you right to where we're at in the story. That's a cool key. It's called the find key, okay? Control F, like fun, allows you to type stuff in and find where you are in the story. Now we're just a little below that. One paragraph below, you'll see at the end it says, there never was a simpler, happier family until the coming of Peter Pan. Mrs. Darling first heard of Peter when she was tidying up her children's minds. It is the nightly custom of every good mother after her children are asleep to rummage in their minds and put things straight for next morning, repacking into their proper places the many articles that have wandered during the day. If you could keep awake, but of course you can't, you would see your own mother doing this, and you would find it very interesting to watch her. It is quite like tidying up drawers. You would see her on her knees, I expect, lingering humorously over some of your contents, wondering where on earth you had picked this thing up, making discoveries sweet and not so sweet, pressing this to her cheek as if it were nice as a kitten, and hurriedly stowing that out of sight. When you wake up in the morning, the naughtiness and evil passions with which you went to bed have been folded up small and placed at the bottom of your mind, and on the top, beautifully aired, are spread out your prettier thoughts, ready for you to put on. This is a perfect passage for me to stop and talk about narrative style. J.M. Barrie is writing a story for a certain audience. I'm not going to say what the audience or who the audience is right now, but it's clear that it's for a certain audience. Throughout the paragraphs, J.M. Barrie describes things, so the descriptions J.M. Barrie describes things in a kind of, in a playful way, and in a very magical way. Now, a lot of us have seen the Disney movie of Peter Pan, and so we understand that magic is a part of this story, and that's wonderful. But you can also read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and in those, there's plenty of magic, but the tone of the story and the vocabulary used in the descriptions is totally different. It's like more serious and sometimes complex, and it grips your mind, and it's hard to work through, and it takes you on a different level. Peter Pan feels more playful right now, more mystical, more magical, more fun, more curious, and that narrative style is for a specific target audience. So what I want you guys to do right now is take note of that little piece of the video, because at the end when I talk about the homework assignment, you might want to come back and reread this paragraph, or maybe some of the paragraphs before or after. Okay, let's continue. I don't know whether you have ever seen a map of a person's mind. Doctors sometimes draw maps of other parts of you, and your own map can become intensely interesting. But catch them trying to draw a map of a child's mind, which is not only confused, but keeps going around all the time. There are zigzag lines on it, just like your temperature on a card, and these are probably roads in the island. For the Neverland is always more or less an island, with astonishing splashes of color here and there, and coral reefs, and rakish-looking craft in the offing, and savages, and lonely lairs, and gnomes who are mostly tailors, and caves through which a river runs, and princes with 6 elder brothers, and a hut fast going to decay, and one very small old lady with a hooked nose. It would be an easy map if that were all, but there is also first day at school, religion, fathers, the round pond, needlework, murders, hangings, verbs that take the dative, chocolate pudding day, getting into braces, say 99, 3 pence for pulling out your tooth yourself, and so on. And either these are part of the island, or they are another map showing through. And it is all rather confusing, especially as nothing will stand still. Of course, the Neverlands vary a good deal. John's, for instance, had a lagoon with flamingos flying over it at which John was shooting, while Michael, who was very small, had a flamingo with lagoons flying over it. That tripped me up. It's kind of silly. John lived in a boat turned upside down on the sands. Michael in a wigwam. Wendy in a house of leaves deftly sewn together. John had no friends. Michael had friends at night. Wendy had a pet wolf forsaken by its parents. But on the whole, the Neverlands have a family resemblance, and if they stood still in a row, you could say of them that they have each other's nose, and so forth. On these magic shores, children at play are forever beaching their coracles, simple boat. We too have been there. We can still hear the sound of the surf, though we shall land no more. We're going to pause there for today. I do want to talk a little bit about the assignment. The homework is going to be for you to write 3 to 5 sentences about who you think the target audience of this book is and why. So if you're going to I want you to use some quotes from the text. Like, I want you to prove it to me by maybe taking a sentence out of the story so far and saying, look, this sentence is clearly for whatever audience you choose. If you're going to do that, I don't want those quotes to count as your sentences. I would like for your sentences to be the words that you come up with, and any quotes you supply in the paragraph will be extra, okay? So 3 to 5 of your own complete sentences, along with any quotes for evidence, to tell me who you think the audience is of this book. As time goes on, we're going to be doing more and more reading and longer videos, but I want us to get acclimated. Remember, again, you can either write down your homework, or you can type it, you can email it to me, or you can come to my Zoom office hours from 8:30 to 9 a.m. on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Except there's no school this Friday, okay? It's Good Friday, so there's no school on Friday, this Friday. I'll see you guys next week. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Stay safe and healthy and happy. Later.